Russian troops have seized Europe's largest nuclear power plant after it was shelled this morning. More VTLs coming up in mid-March as Singapore extends the scheme to include Bali, Penang, Vietnam and Greece. And our Malaysia correspondent looks ahead to the hotly contested Johor election, which will see several multi-cornered battles. I'm Olivia Quay. You're watching The Big Story. It's 5:30 p.m. in Singapore, 11:30 a.m. in Ukraine. The latest on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Ukrainian authorities are saying the plant has been seized by Russian military forces. And according to a local authority, operational personnel are monitoring the condition of power units to ensure the operations were in line with safety requirements. Well, here is footage from the early hours of Friday when Russian forces attacked the nuclear plant, setting an adjacent five-storey training facility on fire. The fire was put out and no injuries were reported. And Ukraine has said the blaze had not affected essential equipment and that no change had been reported in radiation levels. The Zaporizhzhia facility is Europe's largest nuclear power plant, housing 6 reactors. Speaking to my colleague today, aside from a worst-case scenario of a Chernobyl-like disaster, a nuclear energy expert lays out other risks if Ukraine's other nuclear power plants come under attack.
There are 3 other things that people are talking about. First, if the national grid collapses through being physically attacked, through an accident or through cybersecurity, and the nuclear power plants across the country do not get electricity, then there's a risk that there could be heating up, the cooling systems don't work properly, and there could be risks coming out of that. The second risk is that the staff inside the plants, making sure that all the safety systems work, they could be stressed, they could leave the plant or whatever, and thus they are incapable of carrying out the safety systems as they should do. And finally, there could be theft of nuclear materials by terrorists or other malevolent people.
Meanwhile, the first batch of humanitarian aid from the Singapore Red Cross has arrived in Ukraine. It's part of the $2 million that SRC has raised within a week. The money will go towards the provision of relief supplies like hygiene kits, family kits and household kits for those displaced by the conflict. The public fundraising appeal is still going on. From March the 16th, vaccinated travelers can fly into Singapore from more cities in Malaysia, Indonesia and India without having to serve quarantine. Announcing the expansion today, the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore says the VTL for Indonesia will extend beyond Jakarta to include Bali, starting with 2 daily flights from Denpasar. Similarly, the VTL for Malaysia will extend beyond Kuala Lumpur to include Penang, beginning with 4 daily flights each way. Also from the 16th, new VTLs for Greece and Vietnam will be launched. And this move will restore two-way quarantine-free travel with both countries. Minister in the Prime Minister's office, Indrani Raja, has tested positive for COVID-19. She had taken an ART yesterday afternoon after 2 of her household members were infected. Posting about her condition on Facebook, Ms. Indrani says her symptoms are mild and that she's also had her booster shot. Speaking during the debate on the Trade and Industry Ministry's budget, Minister Gan Kim Yong unveils a new plan to strengthen local businesses in various sectors. Called the Singapore Economy 2030, it will target growing exports to at least $1 trillion by 2030, while doubling offshore trade to $2 trillion in the same period. The plan will be supported by 4 key pillars: services, manufacturing, enterprises and trade.
Growing our trading volume will create good jobs for our people. The trading sector is one of the Singapore's largest employers, with over 300,000 employees in 2020, of which the majority are locals and close to 70% are PMET jobs. To take on the many attractive opportunities that will emerge from the continued growth of this sector, we must build a workforce with skills and knowledge that will be needed. We have embarked on a suite of workforce upgrading initiatives for this trade sector, such as the creation of a job transformation map and a career conversion program for wholesale trade professionals.
And a new initiative estimated to cost around $50 million will help Heartland shops increase their revenue and attract more customers. It's called our Heartlands 2025. And Minister of State for Trade and Industry Low Yen Ling says one of the goals is to get these shops to adopt digital solutions like venturing into online sales through e-commerce vendors.
We aim to further expand our digitalization efforts so that 9 in 10 shops will adopt at least one digital solutions. Under this new roadmap, Heartland enterprises will be equipped progressively via the Heartlands Go Digital program. In addition, we will accelerate our outreach to merchants and encourage them to take up solutions and training in financial and inventory management, as well as venture into online sales through other e-commerce vendors and subsidized solutions. Besides digital capabilities, we will widen the reach of the current Heartlands visual merchandising program to increase their offline capabilities and attract more customers and improve sales.
Moving on to the debate on the budget for the Communications and Information Ministry, Singapore will introduce laws to tackle online harm and ensure child safety. Aimed at raising the standard for online safety, Minister Josephine Teo unveils new codes of practice, which will cover 3 areas. First, child safety. Online platforms must have systems to minimize exposure of children to harmful content, like content filters for child accounts and mechanisms for parents to supervise and guide their kids online. Second, user reporting. Platforms will also have to set up easily accessible ways for users to report harmful content and be responsive in evaluating and acting on these reports, and to inform users of actions taken in a timely manner. And here's Mrs. Chiu elaborating on the third area.
The third area is platform accountability. It will require platforms to provide information on what they are doing to keep users safe. This includes the prevalence of harmful online content on their platforms, the user reports they have received and acted upon, and the systems and processes they have in place to address harmful online content. Users can then compare the approaches taken by platforms and make informed decisions about which to engage or disengage.
Voters in Johor will head to the polls next Saturday on March the 12th for the state election. And an average of more than 4 candidates are running in each of the 56 seats up for grabs. There are 239 hopefuls, making this the most hotly contested vote in recent memory. According to the Election Commission, there are 2 wards with 7-way contests, 4 to be fought by 6 candidates, 8 will see 5 contenders, and a whopping 35 will see 4 cornered battles. Ramanan, Malaysia correspondent, joins me now from Kuala Lumpur to give us some more insight into how things are shaping up ahead of the election on the 12th. So, Ram, with the campaigning underway officially since last Saturday, is UMNO emerging as the early favourite, or is there a surprise wildcard, even more than one wildcard, that we should be paying attention to?
I think in the early days of the election, I think it's still UMNO that is the front runner here, because as we know, the opposition parties, they are not united, they are split up. We have Pakatan Harapan, and then we have Dr. Mahathir's party Pejuang entering the fray and contesting in 42 seats. We also have the Sabah-based Warisan making their electoral debut here, and they're contesting in 6 seats. and we have the Youth Party Muda, which is already clashing in one seat with Anwar Ibrahim's Parti Keadilan Rakyat. So I think in the sense of how frayed the opposition alliance is right now, I would say the advantage is very much still with UMNO because they're coming off a very strong momentum after winning convincingly in Malacca, and also because the allies GPS, they won big in Sarawak. So it looks like an uphill task for any other party to dismantle UMNO at this point, because the chief minister, the incumbent chief minister, is also from UMNO. So the momentum is very much on their side.
Well, a factor that could, I guess, possibly throw a spanner in the works is the lower voting age, which is, so this election will be the first that will see the lower voting age in effect. Malaysians at least 18 years old can now vote, as you know, Ram. Can this new group of voters shake up the election in any way? And how do you think it will change how candidates campaign?
The factor of the new voting age definitely is the huge one, but the jury is sort of still out about how this group of people are going to vote, or if they're going to come out and vote at all. As you know, the new lowered voting age is coupled together with automatic voter registration, which means they are automatically added into the electoral roll. So last time there was a need for people to manually register themselves to vote. So that is no longer the case. So when they automatically in the electoral roll, do they actually come out and vote? Now, then that's a question that needs to be answered on election day. And only today we got the figures for postal voting. For example, there are over 100,000 Johorians who are in Singapore who are eligible to vote through postal votes, which is also a first feature introduced for this election. So we got the figures today, only over 7,000 of them registered to be postal voters. So I think the indication points that the interest in the election is still very low, and it's pointing towards a low turnout, because we had a low turnout of 65% in Malacca, we had a low turnout of 60% in Sarawak, and we are having an election at a time when Omicron is still sort of rampaging across the country. We are seeing record cases. Today was another record of COVID-19 cases. So all these factors might still point to a low turnout. So while they will have a big impact in coming elections, as for this Johor election itself, it might be very indicative for some urban seats. But I think on a larger scale, if the turnout is low, it will still work in favor of UMNO and Barisan Nasional.
And Ram, how about what I asked earlier about, how the candidates' campaigning strategy will change? I understand that some parties have fielded younger candidates.
Yes, definitely. All the parties, in fact, this time have fielded younger candidates. There is, I think, Perikatan Nasional, for example, are fielding 30% women candidates as well. So there is a lot of focus on youth and women in this election. So that language has sort of changed for all the parties that are involved mainly because of Muda's involvement. They are making the electoral debut this time. So they are pushing the factor of like having to field younger candidates to appeal to the younger voters. So that's there. And as far as campaigning goes, I think there's a bit of a hybrid right now with Johor, because we are allowing physical campaign again after 2 years of not allowing it. It's allowed in Johor. About 100 people can come and attend rallies, but they're very much limited to the political party offices and headquarters. But we are seeing people turn up in smaller numbers for the election. So they're doing more door-to-door and house visits, something that was absent in Malacca and Sarawak elections, and also doing some hybrid online talks and all of that. So in that sense, I think the strategy has definitely changed, but I think once we know how much of these youths are going to come out and vote, and we get a sense of their pattern of voting after March 12th, I think in the future elections, they'll be further fine-tuned because they will have data about how and what issues do these youths react to.
Thanks so much, Ram Ramanande, our Malaysia correspondent. You can find out more about one crucial battleground in the Johor state election in the north of the state, which its 2 seats were secured by the narrowest of margins in the 2018 general election. You can find this video on ST's YouTube channel. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. Thanks for watching The Big Story and have a good weekend.